Consider yourselves officially enrolled in Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. The facilities are yours.
Hello, kiddies. Props to our peeps, and please keep your receipts.
Wow.
What? No?
That's your new one? That's how we're going to do
that's
this
the new
now?
one. That's the new one, yep. We're going to have a real good time together because we are talking with the Whitmore Sisters this week, who have their first album, but they have been playing together for their entire lives. I think it's a safe.
Other amazing artists. So
yes.
It's the first official album together.
Bonnie sang on the Masterson's records, which is Eleanor and her husband, Chris Masterson, which is how they got the name. Eleanor and Chris are both members of the Dukes, Steve Earle's backing band. So there's a lot of music going on, and they're touring behind this record, which is amazing. We talk about it a little bit in the show, but I said, does it feel like Rolling Thunder? And they couldn't. There's like sort of, but it is Bonnie and Eleanor doing the Whitmore Sisters records, and then Chris and the rest of the band come out and they do all Masterson stuff. It sounds like a lovely evening of country, alt country, Americana, roots. I don't know what you call it.
It's your favorite kind of music.
I know it is.
So everyone who knows what you love will love it too. And even if you don't, it's good.
And everyone at the gig will be dressed just like me, so it'll be perfect.
Yeah. So if you'd like to spend an evening with Luke and a million doppelgangers,
exactly,
and hear some really good tunes.
Yeah, I am currently. My fingers are all still sore from. I don't know what I call it. Nerd rock, dad rock.
Oh, from your band?
My band, yes.
I haven't talked about your band lately.
I know. So 2 weeks ago, or no, they said, well, let's try some new songs, add to the catalog. And our drummer, who, lovely woman, I just don't know if she's ever seen a drum before, said, could we do something by the Beatles? And everyone's like, well, of course. She said, how about like Let It Be? I love John Lennon's voice. And then part of me died inside.
That's rough.
But then it very quickly went from that through into my head the thought of, I have to learn what I think is one of the greatest guitar solos ever.
Right.
So no pressure.
But that's fun. That part is good.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The reason my fingers are so sore is for the past few days, for like an hour, I'm sitting there trying to figure this out. And it's so interesting to play it and then play all the right notes and be like, but this doesn't sound like George.
Well,
and
does it ever sound like George when it's not George, though?
No. And I think it really goes to show sort of how much of somebody's personality goes into their music in a way that you cannot quantify.
Right.
Like George's stuff has a very kind of peaceful, there's an edge to it, but it's very peaceful.
Yes.
Eric Clapton's, there's a little bit of racism.
A little dinkiness.
Right? I mean, that's just reparations. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just interesting to hear and look at it even written out. He's not doing a lot, but he's doing a lot. It's very, George Harrison's line are very, very simple.
But that's very indicative of a lot of George.
Yeah. And it's I think the only good thing that came out of the Phil Spector sessions for Let It Be is him saying, I think we need something heavier here for the solo.
Yeah.
But it has been a delight and incredibly intimidating. And I think I've reached a point where I'm just like, if I can get in the noticular right era or vein, I'm happy. Like, I don't want it to sound just like George, because that's a fool's errand. And then some. I just want to be able to be, for someone to be like, okay, you've listened to the song a few times, you're in the ballpark, go with God.
I would like you guys to play Day in the Life, which is my personal favorite Beatles song.
Really? Interesting. I don't know what my favorite is. It changes.
It changes for me too, but that one's pretty consistent. That one, Day Tripper.
I think everyone's got something for Hyde except for me and my monkey. Or Happiness is a Warm Gun. I think I could go either way.
Okay, those are good. The one that I used to hate, until I think I may have told you this, when I was in high school, Rachel and I both used to listen to the oldie station in the mornings. And when they would do traffic, they would do the beep, 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 yeah, to go to traffic.
Of course.
Which I wasn't really familiar with this, like super familiar with the song at the time. I mean, I knew a ton of Beatles stuff, but I knew that song, but I hadn't really listened to the song. So I didn't particularly like it. And it really annoyed me when they would play that before traffic. However, as an adult, I think it was Dave who was like, you don't like that song? I really feel you would love that song. That song is literally you. Like there is no song that is more you than Baby You Can Drive My Car.
Right.
And I finally listened to the lyrics and he's right.
Interesting.
Right? Like I'm going to be famous, but you can drive my car.
You can drive
like,
the right.
cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty much every day with me.
Every day I'm staring at the ceiling. My mind is sending new feelings down.
We're in Austin.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So
Well, radio shows while we're here, and looking forward to seeing some folks tomorrow night out at Guero's. So that'll be fun.
Oh, Guero's, that's lovely.
Very fun.
Are you guys playing the outside by the giant tree? Oh, it's lovely.
The live oak garden
Yes.
is best.
Yes, that's very, very nice. I'm sure one of the things you both love is when people hear the art you've made and then make generalizations about you.
It's our favorite.
Oh, perfect. So I'm going to assume that you don't care for the Paranormal Activities films.
Oh no, I
love that.
Especially if we're talking about like Wellington Paranormal, like
Okay.
watch that show at all? So good.
No. You need to.
Yeah.
It's a New Zealand show, actually. You can get it on like
Ooh.
HBO Max or whatever.
Oh, perfect.
It's like X-Files, but funny.
Oh, that's perfect.
There we go. Yeah. Because I think listening to the record, it seems that, reading the materials and stuff, a lot of the songs are about people who have passed, people who were important to you in past relationships and stuff. But really, the way you talk about them and incorporate their stories into the album, it's very positive in that I get the sense that you're sort of treating it like, well, they're still around in some form. They may not be here. Yeah, that they're somewhere out there in the ether, and they have some sort of say on input on what you're doing now.
That's why they're ghosts, Luke.
Oh.
Hence the title.
I'll show myself. Show myself out.
No, sorry.
Like we want to share the stories of our friends and keep their memories alive through song. I mean, that's one way that you can tell the tells. It doesn't have to be something that you tell around a campfire to scare everybody. But it is about loss and kind of going through that process.
So as this first official collaboration, why was this the subject matter, which is so beautiful and I tease Luke, but like everything, I love like thinking of ghosts as more than just, Casper, but why was this the area that you said, this is where we need to start? This is the collaboration we need to do.
Well, I think the starting point was the song "The Friends We Leave Behind," and that was written for George Reef, who played bass on the first 3 Mastersons records and played bass on Bonnie's first 2 records. And he was a really great musician in Austin. He played with Courtyard Hounds and Chris Robinson and the Brotherhood. And so that was kind of like the starting point, the first song that we wrote in that pile. And then we had a few others that kind of kept adding up. I mean, not all of the songs on the record are about dead people. Obviously, some songs could be more interpreted as like the ghost
of my love life.
Of course, yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But it's also about like, I think we've all collectively had a lot of loss that we've gone through, either by form of people that we admire. I mean, even the loss of Betty White, who we've, was a couple weeks ago, was gutting, and I don't think that anybody's escaping that at this point. And I think
It's universal.
I think that we spend a lot of time trying not to think about death and not wanting to confront that. And I think that does a lot of disservice and discredits the people that aren't there with us anymore. I think that's how we carry on and we share their stories and, keep them with us, even if they aren't here on the same physical plane anymore.
At what point did you realize that you had the songs for a record? Did you write 11? Or I'm assuming there's others that, oh, this just doesn't fit what we're trying to do with this. What was the thing that made you say, these are the 11 that we want to put out there as a collection?
Right. We have to say that, like, this is really Chris Masterson's
Push.
I wanted to come and visit and hang out in LA. I was getting stir crazy and I was like, can I come out and pod with you guys? And Chris was like, yeah, here's the caveat.
Need to make a record. And we only had one song in the pile that we'd co-written together at that point. So she was coming out in a couple of weeks. And so we just started writing on Zoom and before she came, and then we cut about 8 songs on the first visit. And then she came back for a second visit. We wrote on Zoom in between and then finished up writing when she came out. So it was all kind of written pretty quickly. And so we wrote or co-wrote 9 of the songs. And then there's 2 covers on there, which are Big Heart, Sick Mind by Erin Lee Tashin and Erica Blinn. And then On the Wings of a Nightingale by Paul McCartney. He wrote it for the Everleys. And it's kind of funny how those 2 songs came about because we've been friends with Erin for a really long time. And both of us have co-written with Erin for various projects. And
He's got a line through a lot of our projects, one way or the other.
And so I reached out to him and asked if he wanted to co-write. And he was like, yeah, sure. But I have this song. He was like, do you like, what do you think about this song? And he sent Big Heart, Sick Mind. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Cause we needed some tempo. A lot of the songs are, kind of mid-tempo and mellow. So you definitely need a song like that to
pick her upper,
to build the arc of a collection. And so he just gave us that song. He had, written and recorded it for another project and it didn't fit. And so he just passed it along to us. And then he actually reminded us about On the Wings of a Nightingale. And it's on an Everly Brothers record that was produced by Dave Edmunds. But Chris and I actually got the McCartney demo from Will Rigby, who played with the DBs and was Steve Earle. It's such a great demo where McCartney is like singing all the harmonies and everything. And it's just, it's kind of a better interpretation of the song, in my opinion, just because it doesn't have all the 80s production on it and stuff. And he kind of like sings it in the style of the Everleys. And so that was kind of our template for that song. So, it just kind of came to answer your question, it all came together pretty quickly. And then we were able to add those 2 songs to the pile to get us to where we needed.
Okay, can I just interrupt here for a second?
Yes, please.
Yeah, who is that?
Who is this? Just wanting to be a conversation.
Yeah, that's Warren Oates.
Hi, Warren Oates. Are gorgeous.
Yeah, he sometimes likes to join.
Okay, I just want to acknowledge him and let him know.
Please, that's good to acknowledge and honor him. It's very important.
Yes.
How much writing had you done together? And had there been a lapse of time between your previous collaborations and now?
Well, like my first record, she and I had written like the first song that we've done, and that's been years ago. And then it's just sort of like, so we had the attempt in Nashville with Betty Sue doing a co-write.
We really only sat down a handful of times and kind of hadn't quite gotten our rhythm together. And then
we're also really good at being like, if we have something to focus on, it's like the procrastinator in us will like kick in and like get the work done. Are we allowed to cuss on here?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah.
That was about to get that shit done. Because we work well under those circumstances. So I think, I think we needed the push to know that we were making a record for us to really sit down and
business.
get it done. Yeah.
So when you guys were kids, did you used to fight over who got to be Naomi Judd versus Winona, who got to be Ann Wilson versus Nancy, and who got to be who?
It was actually kind of funny because a lot of times it would be like the argument would ensue with like, you're on my note. And then it would
Seems about right. Was there ever a particular, songstress or rock star that you both really wanted that part? Like, did you both really want to be Stevie Nicks? One of you had to be Christine McVie, or vice versa?
I don't know if there's one in particular. We actually were coming up with a list of women that inspire us, or like early influences, and for another thing. And it's really hard to nail it down. Like I would say the Judds is a very early influence. It was our first concert that we went to as kids. So that was kind of like an early memory and something that sticks in my mind. But like over the years, there's too many really.
Well, there is. Okay. So there was the Fats Waller tune, Ain't Misbehavin', that we have all collectively in our family fought over, like, it. So that's one that we've kind of shared, or taken turns over whose song it was,
Yes.
But I feel like we learned like half of Kim Ritchie's record, Bittersweet, because we loved that record so much, and things like that,
I think that to answer that question, our parents have been like so unbelievably supportive and just kind of encouraged us to be exactly who we want to be. So I don't think we've spent a lot of time like wanting to be somebody else. We're just kind of like unique Martians that have
well, a lot of our influences and upbringing were interpretations of songs. Like, we weren't hearing the original versions of the Beatles. We were hearing my dad's version of him playing them and us learning them that way. So there's a lot of sort of songs that came into our collection through him, which I think is a little bit of a different way of approaching songs. And there's a lot of songs that I just assumed were my dad, because he also would write songs. And so it wasn't until later that I was like, oh,
that's Bob Dylan.
That's Bob Dylan.
Like, wow, Bob Dylan's covering our dad. That's so cool. Did he pay for the rights to that?
I feel like the follow-up question to that is something that usually at some point during the interview, Heidi's brings it up, because both her mother and your mother were opera singers.
Mm-hmm.
Very
and studied.
Cool. Yeah.
What is there anything from that particular training, which you don't normally see in most, pop rock country musicians, that from that having that background that you think makes you sound a little bit different than other singers?
Absolutely. I think the track on the album that reflects that the best is Superficial World of Love.
Mm-hmm.
And our mom played the lead in La Traviata, and she was always giving lessons at the house and always performing and taking vocalizing, taking us to see the symphony, taking us to the opera, and then both of us have classical training. I pursued it all the way through college, so a lot of my string arrangements and things that I do on records is largely from our mother's influence, for sure. So I would say, it's a big part of where we come from. But, we also kind of really didn't want to sing like mom.
Yeah,
like
there was a little pushback.
Any formal training from our mom.
Not exactly.
But we learned like by osmosis, like you can't overhear that many vocal lessons and not
pick up. And also, like, she was always one to be like, if we were doing something wrong, she was going to tell us. Like, I used to be in the audience because she would be like, like her little hand does. I was like, stop it, we can talk about it later, Yes. But it did a lot to just like knowing, and like we were also both not allowed to become cheerleaders because that was too much screaming.
She didn't want us to
This is all, to this day, she'll listen to an episode and she'll be like, Heidi Rayel, raise your soft palate. You're not breathing from your diaphragm when you're on the show.
Oh, open the back of your throat.
Yes.
Beyonce.
Oh, I'll go up to visit her. She lives in this beautiful home in northern Michigan. I'll go up to visit and I'll be like 3 floors down from her. She'll be drying her hair. She's long since retired and I can still hear her vocalizing. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord. It's wonderful, but it's just.
My favorite was to be on the phone with somebody and I could hear it through the bedroom door downstairs, Mom, and be like, what am I hearing in the background? I go, what, this? And I'd open up the door and it was like the Sonic got like just twice as loud. And I was, what is that? And I'm like, it's my mom. Yeah. But she has little whale noises in the background. It's good for your records.
Fine. But that's amazing too, that you both had the confidence and to take your own path and do that, and to do what you do and have your incredible talent out there for everyone. Because I can sing. I don't like to sing. I like to act. I don't like to sing. But I think I was heading more the musical theater path, so it was a little too close. But and you guys have made your own path with incredible music, so it's good.
Well, I feel like our parents balance us out in that regard. Dad kept us folky, Mom kept us trained, so to speak.
Best of both worlds, right?
I think actually the best thing I learned from her is emoting, like vocally emoting, because I can still listen to performances of hers, recitals and stuff, and it just makes me weep. Like, that's the thing about opera is like, I had no idea what they're talking about. It's all in Italian or whatever. But like when she is like out there about to like kill herself, you're like, just full on
every time speaking. And we all know what's going to happen, but we still get all choked up. It's like knowing the dog's going to die at the end of the movie. You're still going to cry.
I know you've had an insanely fascinating and wonderful list of people you've collaborated with in the past. Certainly, Chris, good start. I mean, Steve Earle.
That was a good start.
Yeah. Just so many people. What did you learn from some of them and seeing them work, and what'd you take from that?
You mentioned the most recent one.
Oh, well, okay. Here's an example. So Steve Earle does a benefit show every year, and he has guests. And in the past, he's had Amy Lou and Lucinda. He had both one year, and I got to sing with both of them and back both of them up, which was like one of my career highlights of my life. But this year, Springsteen was his guest. And Springsteen was like, yeah, I want the Dukes to back me up. And so I got the song list like 4 days before the show and realized I was going to have to play all the piano parts on like Darkness on the Edge of Town and the Promise.
No biggie.
And like, that's not my main instrument. I did happen to focus on that during quarantine. So I was like, I think I can pull this off. But, so I was pretty nervous going into it, but just like really, doing all my homework and getting ready. And then like when he showed up for sound check, and then also just for the performance, like I have never been on stage with anyone in my life that had that kind of energy. And I've played in an orchestra with Diana Ross. I've played like with so many different people, but Springsteen was just a whole other level. Like he was summoning energy from the core of the earth and like throwing it out into the audience, and they were just giving it right back. And it was the most powerful experience on stage that I've ever had.
She's never smiled that much.
I've never smiled in my career. So it was really incredible. But, I think you learn something from everybody that you play with. I enjoy being a side musician very much. I don't have to be center stage. And, I've learned a lot from, singing with Kelly Willis or just a number of people. You learn something from everybody. Just even storytelling from somebody like Steve Pultz, watching how they just, do insane things on stage to make people laugh that have nothing to do with music.
Well, even with Hayes Carl, and he learned this from Ray Wiley Hubbard, was like, if you have a 30-minute set, you do not play more than 30 minutes. Like there's just little things that that you can overstep or put yourself in a position where you don't get asked back to do something. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I guess that's how you learn how to be a pro.
I learned that silence is a really good tool to use from McMurtry, you know.
And I know was that the show you did with Steve Earle and Springsteen. One, the video, it just looks like everybody on stage is having the greatest night of their lives, Springsteen included.
Yeah.
But
What he said about Chris.
Oh yeah, Springsteen sent Steve a text and it was like, please, tell the Dukes they're amazing. Your guitar player is an exceptional treasure.
Wow. So has Chris
Okay,
tattooed
so-
that somewhere
I was
on
gonna
his
say,
body? Yeah.
I know. I was like, you think of that tattooed, like exceptional treasure. The box.
Like on a nameplate on his desk,
Right.
personalized license plate,
Shirts. I mean,
everywhere.
treasure with an arrow pointing up at it.
Right, and then in quotes, Bruce
Yeah.
Springsteen.
You must be looking forward to getting out. Have you done a lot of shows recently other than that? Was that a one-off or were you guys on the road? I don't remember.
A one-off, and we also were there to make a record with Steve. It's been a little unstable out there. Like, when we all got vaccinated last summer, we went to work in June and it felt magical. We played a bunch of headlining shows, Mastersons and Whitmore Sisters and Bonnie, and kind of were able to start previewing some of these new tunes out this summer. And then everything started heating up in July and August out with Steve. And, it got kind of stressful out there. We had our pedal steel player out with Steve, ended up getting a breakthrough, and we just had to, kick him off the island and leave him in a hotel. And
Yeah.
we all kept testing and carrying on, and no one else had a breakthrough. So we were able to continue the tour without any cancellations. And then,
But he was like the only one that booking agent, like everybody else had canceled dates, and Steve was one of the only
acts that summer that didn't have any cancellations. And then I honestly can't even remember what we did for the rest of last year, but it was full. And then
yeah, it's just basically, it's like we've it's more of like there have been gigs that then were taken away, and then there's been gigs and they got canceled, and
or gigs
it's a lot of pivoting.
Gigs that maybe should be canceled, but you're going to do them anyway because you want the club to not go out of business.
Right.
And it's a little tricky because a lot of our fans aren't comfortable coming out. It's affecting ticket sales and merch sales and bar sales, and it's just we're making an announcement tomorrow that we will be rescheduling all of our European dates, which we're supposed to start after this weekend.
And one of the fans who messaged like, "Are you still doing these? COVID is breaking our lives."
Yeah.
The most appropriate expression. He was a Spanish fan, but COVID is breaking our lives, and I was like, "Yep, it sure is." We don't know if the Outlaw Cruise is going to happen or not. It looks like it is so far, but there's several boats that aren't coming to port, and the passengers are stuck for an extra week because there's a breakout, even though everybody was vaccinated and even though everybody did a PCR test before they got on board and a rapid test. So, it's really tricky out there.
We're staying hopeful, but like really, we don't know if we're doing the show until we're actually doing the show at this point. And that's a hard place to be when you're trying to plan or do anything. So, what we can say is that what we are being asked to do and what we are hopefully going to accomplish is really great stuff. And we're really looking forward to all of them.
Right.
As if they actually come, we'll just have to wait and see.
I think it's just really tricky too, though, because like at our level, which is pretty mid-level, some of these clubs are pretty small. Some of the times we're selling the merch ourselves. There might be a mask requirement. Do people follow it? Are they, talking loudly over music in our face while I'm trying to sell them a record, without a mask? And, it's just, there's a lot of situations that
we didn't expect to be put in a situation where we needed to be like a school monitor or something of that sort. Like I still have been trying to keep my residency going here in Austin. I do a residency at the Continental Gallery. upstairs. And like this past week, I did it by myself, but I was like, basically anybody who came in without a mask on, I was like, do you have one? No,
We have one. for
we
you.
have one. And they don't, but like, that's what I need to be able to feel safe when I take my mask off, you
I
know?
think, and we're getting to the point where like I'm getting pretty stressed about it because I had COVID in March of 2020 and I have long lasting health effects and I'm a long hauler and I don't want it again.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to lose any more work. So it's just really hard to.
We want to be entertainers for everybody because that's what everybody is actually needing and wanting. But at the same time, I need them to help us maintain this.
Keep
and
going.
That means wearing a mask, and it's not fun, but it means, like you take a sip, you put the mask back on, you don't just, but it's hard when alcohol gets built into it, it's like your inhibitions completely go out. And, but until we're willing to be able to share a space and feel safe within it, like that's just where we're going to be until we can get through all this.
So lots of dates planned. We're very hopeful.
Good.
Well, and I was going to say to focus on the positive side of it, assuming everything goes off as planned, it seems like a really cool night of music. Is it sort of going to be because it's all versions of your various groups, and is it going to be sort of a rolling thunder, or is it going to be a very separate 3 sets of music? Have you figured that out yet, or?
We've gone back and forth. I think what we're planning on doing last summer, Bonnie did an opening set and then we kind of worked the Whitmore Sisters into the Masterson set.
Although I did like the Jason Isbell quote.
What did he say?
Jason ended up showing up to our Tulsa show and because he tweeted, it's like, we went and saw the Whitmore Sisters with Chris Masterson.
Perfect.
I think we have a lot of flexibility and can really put on a good show with really 3 acts. And in Europe, we will be with the full band, and obviously hope to do that stateside at some point. I think we're planning on having the Whitmore Sisters open, and then we'll probably at least work 1 Bonnie tune, or if not more, in the main set. So it's going to be fun.
Sissy left out in the pouring rain. Says she's going somewhere she can change her name. Fire in her hair, a little sparkle in her eye.
Ghost Stories, the first album by the Whitmore Sisters, is available right now wherever you get your music. For more information, check out their website, thewhitmoresisters.com. They are also on Facebook and Instagram, where they're at The Whitmore Sisters, and they are on Twitter at Whitmore Sisters.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website at rockandrollgradschool.com, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hedquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thank you, good night, and may all your favorite bands stay together.
Lights on the porch burning all night long. Sissy says, Porter, baby, play my song. A wish and a hope like a charm against the pain. Just like a storm